What's up, you all? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another roast. So it's been a while since I've done a roast. I know I talked about doing them like bi-monthly or monthly at one point, but to be perfectly honest, it took me a while to kind of hash out the way I really just want to do it, and I think I've finally kind of figured out a way to do it, and that would be in the form of one-liners. Now, for those of you who've never seen my roasts before, this is not an anti-haul. I will roast makeup from time to time that I like or that I might even buy. This is just for fun, and it is in some ways a way for me to either talk about some makeup brands that I dislike or talk myself out of buying makeup. Let's go ahead and start. What we're going to start with today is the Beautyblender Electric Violet Sponge. Now, I know what you're thinking. Just what we needed, another shade of Beautyblender that, when washed, is the exact same shade of vomit as every other Beautyblender you own. Hey Beautyblender, maybe stop making so many barely different shades of your overpriced sponge and instead focus on making more shades of your actual foundation. How about applying your knack for creating slightly different shades of pink to your ineptitude of formulating different shades of human? We know you know color. We know you know how to differentiate between colors on a spectrum, and we know you can do slightly different shades of pink along the way. How about you do the same kind of thing for your foundations? Everybody would much appreciate it. So the next thing I'm going to roast is going to be, of course, the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette. This palette looks like the BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette died and came back as a Kardashian. It looks like Anastasia Beverly Hills was making another one of those palettes where every shade is like a different shade of taupe or brown, and then halfway through they were like, and remembered that palette picture that was circulating online of all their palettes that looked the same. So then they decided to make it just more colorful in general, and we thank them for it. Alright, moving on to the MAC Boom 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 collection. It looks like what the CEO of Tarte dreams their entire brand could be if the pesky internet didn't exist, and it almost looks like MAC made this collection as like a giant middle finger to all the SJWs of the beauty community, like, hey, guess what? We see you out there wanting us to make inclusive collections, but instead we're just going to make one giant light pale baby pink collection for white people. And you all probably saw this coming. We're going to talk about the Kat Von D vegan palette, okay? Or vegan love, or vegan heart. Vegan heart, like organ meat. Would you eat that? Vegans don't eat hearts. This palette looks like Grandma Goth is trying to go back to the glory days of the Mi Vida Loca remix and recreate it for everyone to love, and it just did not pan out this time. It's like she forgot that indie brands exist now and we have all the affordable, colorful palettes we could ever want, and nobody gives a shit about Mi Vida Loca remix anymore, and they definitely don't care about this one. Because let's be real, the swatches looked like somebody swatched the James Charles palette and then wiped it off. And I mean, the fact that she called it the vegan palette and it's coming from somebody like her, she might as well have just called it the I'm vegan because of moral superiority palette. And I mean, not just the eyeshadow, but the packaging looks like something that Hot Topic got and couldn't sell, and then they sent it to TJ Maxx. Let's go ahead and talk about her mascara that she came out with. I've said it once, I'll say it again, but the Kat Von D Beauty packaging is the tap-out clothing of the makeup world, and you will never convince me otherwise. Go big or go home. How about go big or go vaccinate your kid? And you know how mascaras usually have like varying shades of black, like blackest black, black as night, noir. Well, this one should just be called the Black Death, just to fit with that whole goth vibe she's got going on. And because I know how much they would love to be juxtaposed to one another, let's talk about Jeffree Star's Blue Blood palette collection thing, whatever the hell it is. The Jeffree Jar, okay, he's forever going to be known as Jeffree Jar here on my channel. I just can't, yeah. And then his friend Lar Banks, she's like great, right? Jeffree Star's Blue Blood palette, because every time I do my eyeshadow, I want to be reminded of a TV show I don't watch. Yeah, I know what it's supposed to mean, like royal blood, whatever, but you know what? We have cop shows now, so that's not what it means anymore. Blue Blood is a cop show. I don't watch it, but that's all I can think about. And as a Kentucky Wildcat fan and graduate of University of Kentucky, I'm a little bit offended he didn't just call it Bleed Blue. But then I remember I wouldn't buy anything from him even if he named it after my dog, which is saying something, because I pretty much buy almost every makeup product on the market that they name after my dog, because it's definitely named after her, and it's not just a coincidence that a lot of green things are called Jade. And of course there's a white shade called Wealthy. He might as well have just called it Privilege. I'll be here all night. Now, in related news, we're going to talk about the Too Faced Natural Lust palette. Now, honestly, when you look at this palette and you open it up and you see all the shades, he might as well have just called it White Lives Matter. Now, the palette itself is named after a deadly sin, and to its credit, it does, after all, look like decor of a funeral. But the shades, on the other hand, are named after kinky sex stuff. But the shades themselves, those are the shades that Martha wears to church every Sunday. But at least there's a blue. I mean, come on. For those of us who just get so sick of all the beige and the cream and the frosty whites, at least there's a blue, because everybody knows that blue makes everything more cool and interesting. It's science. And I mean, really? A peacock? Like, what's so lustful about a peacock? Because that's the fucking sound I want to hear while I'm getting lustful in the bedroom wearing my Too Faced Natural Lust palette. But no, seriously, like, my neighbors raised those things growing up, and I swear to God, like, to this day, when I, like, wake up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep, I swear I hear the echoes of the and then everything's silent. But I'm pretty sure I was woken up by a peacock. The next thing I'm going to talk about, which might, of course, come as a surprise to all of you, is the 90s Baby palette by Peachy Queen. Get it? Because Peachy Queen. This palette, well, first of all, if you were a 90s baby, then you probably don't know what any of the stuff in this palette is. Now, if you were an 80s baby, you definitely know what it is. The palette should either be called 90s Kid or 80s Baby. You know what I mean? Because maybe if you were a 90s baby, you know what some of this stuff is. But if you're an 80s baby, you know what all of it is. This palette looks like a YouTube copyright strike in the form of an eyeshadow palette. I mean, they bastardized all my favorite toys from childhood and then exploited it in the form of something I want to buy. It's like they translated my old interests into my new interests somehow. I'm not sure how they did that, but they're freaking geniuses, because it's definitely not been done 1,000 times over to our exact generation. Just fall for all of it. What is it about the 90s that we all love to love? But it works. It works. We are having our childhood sold back to us. One makeup at a time. They took everything tacky about the 90s and awesome about the 90s, and they put it in this irresistible eyeshadow palette, and I fucking want it. But on the other hand, there's the Glamlite pizza palette. Should have seen it coming. Really should have, you know? We all like pizza. We knew it was just a matter of time before a makeup brand would make an eyeshadow palette in the shape of and decorated with like a slice of pizza. It's the natural next step, you know? The obvious continuation of every eyeshadow palette ever invented. It's like they were all leading up to this exact palette. Now, this is the palette you're going to want if you want your vanity to look like you left food on it that you regret ordering the night before when you were drunk. That's why you'd want this palette. And fellow neat freaks out there, you all know you've all wanted an oddly shaped palette that doesn't really quite fit into your palette drawer or in any of your other palette storage. I mean, it's just everybody's dream to have a pizza slice shaped palette. All right, we're going to have to go for Colourpop now. I love Colourpop. I like a lot of brands, but the Just My Luck palette. It's just my luck. This came out about 2 years after everybody asked you for it. We know you've been asking for it, but that palette came about as late as this joke did. But, yeah, I'm going to have to roast this other Colourpop collection because, I mean, just look at it. Would you just look how awful it is? The idea is terrible. It's just hideous. Everything about it sucks. I mean, just look at all of the stuff. Look how crappy it is. I mean, it's awful, right? I don't want any of it. I absolutely hate Disney. Who doesn't? The villains especially. My God, they're the worst, right? They're rich backstories. Their odd way of garnering your sympathy, even though they're terrible. Everybody hates villains. Everybody hates antagonists, and this collection is no exception because it is just absolutely awful, and I hate it. And I most definitely will not be spending my money on it because I definitely don't love it. Just ugly, hideous, all of it's gross. It's just those, if you just see the color, see how colorful and interesting it is and how cohesive the collection itself is, and this highlighter packaging. Don't even get me started on how ugly and ill thought out this entire collection is. Just don't even get me started, okay? Just horrible. It definitely did not reignite my love for makeup. It definitely did not give me a reason to be interested in makeup again. Definitely not. Not this collection, no. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end here. I will see you all next time. Hope you liked this format. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to, subscribe to my channel or support me on Patreon. That'd be great. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and all of the above social media that I never really get on that much. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Peace out.